Unmute. Hey, hey, hey. I think that, um, hi, Vivian Outlaw, you little rock star, you. I just love ya. Um, I am actually going to start over because I was muted on a lot of the platforms, and Sage Laurel totally saved my day by telling me now rather than 20 minutes in, like the last time that happened. Thank you, Sage. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Carrie. Good morning, Kim. Vivian, thanks for being with me. So today I wanted to share a couple things with you. First off, I'm launching a podcast. I'm so excited. It's going to be called the Rags to Riches Textile Upcycling Podcast, and it will be launching sometime between now and the end of June. So keep your eyes peeled. I'll be sending out announcements on my email list if you're there, and there will be some kind of cool little kind of prizes if you're one of the first to review and share and that kind of thing. So that'll be a super fun thing. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about today is collaborations, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I didn't really have the opportunity to collaborate a whole lot until kind of recently. And it started out with, well, first it started out with something called the Scrapbox Challenge. Is anybody out there listening who participated in the Scrapbox Challenges that I've run over the years? Fun, cool, just kind of whimsical, creative event where people across the world take boxes of scrap from my studio and create with it. And there's a little friendly competition involved where people can kind of, well, people come and vote, and the prize winner wins something super cool. So that happened just at the very beginning of the pandemic. And it was unbeknownst to me, a pandemic would, kind of ensue after those boxes got sent out. I think the day that most people received their boxes was the day that my kids came home from school telling me that they were going to be out of school for 2 weeks because there was something called a pandemic coming our way. So that the Scrapbox Challenge, we kind of strung it out for a couple of months because we all needed that connection, right? And that, like, people like, I live in this very remote area, and it was so nice just to have this group of really awesome creative people to connect with there. So um at any rate, there could be another Scrapbox Challenge in the future, but what grew out of that Scrapbox Challenge back in early 2020 is something called a stitch-along. And that was just a way to have a bunch of people participate in a project, kind of a group project, right? So that everybody made a little square. And actually, I have the squares right here to show you. These are a couple sample squares that I made. So the first stitch along we did, we made these little wool applique squares that everybody made a square. They purchased kits from my shop, and then finished the squares, returned them to me, and I created a blanket from all of the squares, stitched literally all across the world. And that blanket was then auctioned, and the proceeds went, 100% of the proceeds went to support our local shelter for survivors of domestic violence. And it went really well. And it was super cool to be able to donate $1,000 to that shelter. So I thought, this is super cool. I want to do another one. So I kind of put my feelers out in my membership organization called Stitcherhood, which you can check out at stitcherhood.crispina.eco. And hey, Melissa, I see Melissa Draper on with us today on YouTube. Melissa is one of our collaborators over at Stitcherhood. And Melissa, if you have a second, if you're still listening, just pop a comment and about your experience with Stitcherhood. I love to have the people who are actually on the receiving end share their experience because I think it's great. I'm a little biased, and I hope that it provides a lot of value and just connection and expertise and support for people who are in the textile recycling world, creating businesses, creating product to sell, and just creating, like, industry professionals, entrepreneurs, and hobbyists alike are joined together in Stitcherhood to create something that, like a collaboration, the outcome is far greater than the sum of its parts. And If anybody else is listening who's a member over in Stitcherhood, please do go ahead and share what your experience is like. So while we're sharing, I would love to know a couple things. First of all, where are you located? Like, just type in the chat where you're tuning in from and how you came across this feed. Like, is this something that you wait for each week? Is it something that you're brand new to? Did you hear about it from a friend? Are you my next door neighbor? Are you my girlfriend Vivian? Like, how did you find out about the live streams here? And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this collaboration that started back in 2020 and that we're carrying on with. Oh, wow, look at you, Colorado. Cheryl, where in Colorado are you? Are you in Boulder near my friend Sherry? Because I'd like to go visit Boulder. I've been there once or twice before, but not in a long time. And oh, just such a beautiful part of the country. And while I'm reading comments, I just want to say that Melissa says in the comments from YouTube, Stitcherhood helps me stay on track with my making goals and provides a ton of support for my business goals. Thanks, Melissa. You're the bomb. And Melissa's out in Utah, and she, we have Melissa in Utah. I'm in Massachusetts. There's New Yorkers. We have a New Zealander. We have Canadians. We have people from literally across the world. A couple people over in the UK who all joined together in our Stitcherhood. So, like that collaboration, I'm going to talk to you about the Stitch Along collaboration that just offers such an opportunity to just do good in the world, you guys. Like, honestly, every day I look at the news and I turn it off. And I don't own a television, so the news comes to me either through my phone or sometimes with the radio. And man, there's just a lot of focus on the doom and gloom, and honestly, it makes me feel sad. So rather than focusing on those things, I like to focus on all the wonderful things that are going on in the world, because there are actually tons of them, and I'm here to share one of those with you today. So um, the collaboration of the Stitch Along. So the first one we did the hearts, this little wool applique. The blanket came out amazing. One of the people who actually participated in the making process had our highest bid on the auction, and then another person who was just paying attention to the whole thing, not a participant, said, we were at about $850, I think, on the auction, and this woman approached me online and said, I really want you to be able to donate $1,000 to your shelter, your local shelter. Could you please take my donation and roll that in? And she brought the funding up to $1,000 even. Oh my God, people are awesome, right? There's a lot more super awesome, loving, kind people in the world, and then there are of the crazy whack jobs that do terrible things. Just remember that. Okay, so then the second Stitch Along came about, and that was brought about because, first of all, we had so much fun, and it was brought to my attention by my dear friend Phyllis, who's, I think if I had to pick a best friend, she might be it, although it's really hard for me to pick because I have some really awesome friends. But Phyllis said to me, Crispina, it was really cool. The whole idea was just awesome, but I think that when you auction a blanket, it really excludes a lot of people who aren't in the position to spend hundreds of dollars on supporting an organization. And I thought, Phyllis, you are brilliant. I just love that idea. So I thought, let's do a second Stitch Along, and rather than auctioning it, let's figure out a way where people can give a donation of, say, 20 or 50 bucks and be kind of like thrown in the hat and have one person win the blanket. Sometimes, like, it's funny, like raffles are, you can't really, promote it as a raffle because raffles are considered gambling, and, I don't have a license to do that kind of thing. So what we did was we found an organization that was actually brought to our attention by one of the participants, Judy Kamenstein, who sat on the board of My Sister's Place, which is located in White Plains, New York. And it too is an organization that supports survivors of domestic violence. And we were able to raise, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a little bit of a blank, but I believe it was like $1,800 for the second Stitch Along, based on the change from that auction platform to more of a donation platform. So the donations went right in to the organization's fund, and every donation of a $20 increment allowed for one chance to be the lucky owner of that collaborative blanket. And the imagery we used for the second blanket was kind of fall-like, more like leafy, and we got the oak leaves and some of these more like a beech tree kind of leaf, some little maple, and then lots of stitching and embroidery, some beadwork in there too. And the way it works is that people purchased a kit from my shop, and we held Zoom classes so that people could participate and make a square with, even if they had no experience, like no experience necessary. Okay, so every I just the whole thing blows my mind. But one of the things that blows my mind most is the fact that we had 100% participation. Like, I have never had somebody buy a kit from me and not either complete the kit or send it back to me saying, I'm so sorry, something came up that made me, it was impossible for me to complete the kit. That happened with a few people who were in the medical profession, and because of the COVID pandemic, were just completely consumed with their work. And thank God for them, right? Like, oh. So we have this opportunity coming up, you guys, and this opportunity is so, so special. The opportunity is Stitch Along 3.0, and it is going to be team taught by myself, our community manager over at Stitcherhood. Her name is Sandra Primo, and she's a textile alchemist in her own right. Her business is called Unruffled, and you can visit that by going to unruffled.com. I'll put a link in the comments. And the third team teaching this event is Mary Margaret Petway from Gee's Bend, Alabama. I have to stop sometimes. I just have to like pinch myself, because for the last 25 years, since the first time I laid eyes on a Gee's Bend quilt, it was at the Whitney Museum in New York City, I have just been awestruck by the beauty and integrity and legacy of these amazing handmade quilts. And if you're a quilter, is anybody a quilter? Tell me if you're a quilter. Quilters out there, people who love quilts, people who follow quilters. Gee's Bend, you guys, like, do you want to collaborate with Mary Margaret Petway from Gee's Bend? Because I know one thing, I sure do. And the proceeds of this particular stitch along are going to be going to support a very humble quilting studio located in Gee's Bend, Alabama. And we have the opportunity to shine a bright light on these women who live in this little tiny town, population 208, who have carried the tradition of their generations past forward. And this all started, I think Mary Margaret told me she's fourth generation, but third or fourth. Her daughter, I think, is fourth or fifth. Anyway, it started back when slavery was going on. The Petway plantation, back when people had slaves, they named their slaves with their last name. Kind of weird. Anyway, back when it was a plantation and slaves lived there, they were cold in the wintertime, and they would use clothing to create quilts so that they could stay warm. And little did they know, unbeknownst to them, people were awestruck by their creative abilities and design sense. And over the generations, they have won well-deserved recognition for the style of quilting that is unlike any I've ever seen anywhere else. So together we will have a stitch along that Mary Margaret will help us teach. She will be making the finished squares, which I have some samples, and there's going to be voting this time. We're going to involve some voting. So if you guys are interested in picking the square that you think will make the most worthy Gee's Bend collaborative quilt, that will be, I'll be posting those later. Actually, I think tomorrow is going to be the day. So here are some samples that are kind of in the works. This is a linen background. So all of the squares have a summer weight background, just because the technique that Mary Margaret uses to put them together is very different from my technique. So there's one, and then we have another that's similar but lighter ground, so little flowers. And the other cool thing about the stitch alongs is that everybody who participates stitches their name and location into their square, so that over the years, the history of that, the makers, the collaboration, and the magic that we create together continues, right? So the reference is there. This is number 3, and just a simple big fat flower. Again, light ground, colorful embellishment. And then number 4 is it's a little wrinkled, so it might be a little hard to read, but the way I designed it is like, this is 1/4 of a flower. And I don't know, I'm going to hold this really close to the camera so you can see it. So do you see these petals here? And when you sew 4 together, this would make a circle. So there'd be like a big sunflower. And I thought, in light of all the upheaval in the Ukraine and the idea that this project supports people in need, I feel like the sunflower might be the way to go, you guys. And I think I'm going to create another square that's a little bit more graphic. So there's the background of this square is patterned, as are the petals. So it's a little tricky to read, certainly on a screen, and from any distance, it's a little tricky to read. So I think that maybe something with a solid background would be good. So let me know which of those you like the best. And there's the sunflowers, and actually there's a second sunflower down here. There's the light ground, and this is got a field of flowers, and then there will be a 4-leaf clover in the corners when those get put together. Again, same idea, just a brighter color ground. And then the 4th piece we have here is the bright colored flower with, again, it'll have a 4-leaf clover in the corners when the squares get stitched together. So that was a joke. Do you get it? So those will be ready for voting later this week. I'm going to talk more about the transformation involved with participating, and the feedback I've gotten. People have written me letters, you guys, like heartfelt, beautiful, thoughtful, meaningful letters about how participating in a stitch along has literally changed their lives. Participating in a stitch along has actually let them feel like they're contributing to the good. I mean, we all know when you make a donation to any kind of charity organization, I always wonder, like, okay, how much does that CEO get paid? And is my donation just going to support their vacation fund, or is my donation actually going to help the people who are hungry or have lost their homes or are in some sort of strife? So when you're working on a stitch along, you can rest assured that your work, your investment in the project goes to support the people who are in need. So Mary Margaret will be helping us, Mary Margaret Petway from G's Bend. If anybody's just tuning in, I encourage you to go back and listen to the entire episode today, because this is really exciting. We're not quite ready for people to purchase as of yet. Our early access buy-in for our mailing list and membership over in Stitcherhood is closed, but in the next couple of days, we will be opening registration, and it's going to just be open for 5 days. So if you're interested in participating and you're not sure how to learn more about it, I'm just going to put a link in the comments here, if I can find it. And let's see, and I'm going to put a link in afterwards so I can just finish up, because I really love to keep these segments, my Tuesdays Textile Alchemy segments, to 20 minutes, and I know we're just about there. But before I dash off, any questions, anything come to mind that you'd like more information about regarding collaborations and creating something beautiful in a group? Because honestly, you guys, this work is fun. It's uplifting, it's positive, there's no doom and gloom involved, and it supports people who are doing really amazing things in the world. So I look forward to your participation. I look forward to your questions if they arise later. If you think of a question later, or if you're listening to this as a recording, Pop your questions in the comments. I check them and I make sure that everything gets answered. And share. Tell all your friends, because the more people who participate, the more we can create and the more money we can raise to support that just simple, humble quilting studio down there in G Bend, Alabama, and allow the women who are quilting there, and men. I have to say, Mary Margaret's son is a quilter and has sold his work. Um, we can support that and carry it into the next and future generations. So thank you so much for tuning in today. I look forward to collaborating with you in the future, and tune back in next Tuesday on 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when I go live each week. Have a great week, and I'll see you then.